Right. Welcome to cold weather yoga. Today you want to grab a block and a strap, and that should be. And if you've got therapy balls or tennis balls, grab those as well. We'll do some footwork with those. So find yourself comfortably seated. Close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just notice what's going on inside your body today. Physically, how are you feeling? How's the body feeling? What areas feel real good? What areas feel like they need a little more love and attention? And then how are you feeling emotionally today? And how are you feeling mentally? And let's set the intention that by the end of our practice today, all the bodies feel at least at minimum 10% better than we went in. 10% uplift in our mental capacity and focus, 10% increase in our emotional well-being, 10% increase in overall body happiness. And that's just a minimum. We can take 100%. And we are approaching the fall equinox. So that's on Thursday. That kind of balance between light and dark, masculine and feminine. And the way that the equinox and daylight work really mirrors kind of how life works, because everybody's experience of what kind of like midsummer and midwinter and spring and fall, everybody's experience is a little bit different because we all live in a different place. So while some places might have 12 hours, a perfect break within our day and night, it can shift in different places. And I think that's a great analogy of just what life looks like, is that while the same thing can be happening to everybody can be experiencing it in a different way. So as we think about in the northern hemisphere this autumn equinox, the southern hemisphere is having the opposite experience. We're headed into winter, we're headed into hibernation, and they're coming out of hibernation. So it's a really lovely thing to think about, especially at this time, which is a beautiful time for reflection. We're almost at the new moon as well. While we all might be experiencing the same thing, we are all experiencing it in vastly different ways. And how can we bring in a little more empathy and a little more compassion, for our fellow humans. And how can we have a little more empathy and compassion for ourselves? Because what I could handle yesterday might be different than what I could handle today, or what I handled this morning might be different than what I can handle tonight. Just recognizing that there is an ebb and a flow, a light and a dark, a masculine and feminine, hard and soft, to everyone and everything that's different in every second of every day. And we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace and a little bit of compassion, and we need to give our other earthly neighbors the same. So let's start on our backs with a block. We have that block under our sacrum in a bridge position. So you want to go with either medium or high on your block positioning. And I am going to grab a little blanket. It's that time of year where it starts to get cold and Vata energy starts to come in. So I've oiled my head and wrapped my hair up. So I'll get everything oily when I lie on it. So coming onto your back, again, you're either going to have it in the medium position or the high position. It's going to go right in at the sacrum, so it's not on the low back. It's still on the pelvis. I would say in between the top of the butt crack and the top of the pelvis. And just gently turn your toes in, and that's going to invite the inner thighs, or the upper thighs rather, to rotate inwards. And what that does is help open up through the low back. Relaxing the arms at your side. And we're just going to take a couple breaths here, resting into this stretch. And we're going to do a couple variations of things from this position. So from here, you're going to keep your left leg exactly how it is and just extend the right leg out. Notice oftentimes how that leg wants to externally rotate. So I want you to encourage that internal rotation. You might need to take the foot slightly wider than the hip in order to get that encouragement, and then turn the toes inwards. And that should shift the stretch from kind of outer thigh into top of the thigh, and even maybe wrapping around this right inner hip bone here. And the reason why you will feel it a lot of times through kind of the, not just the groin, but the inner, it's like way inside the pelvis. And that is because we've got the psoas that has two heads on it, and one of them attaches on the inside wall of this pelvis, and the other one attaches up in the low back. So you might be feeling like, well, I'm stretching my quad. Why am I feeling this inside my pelvis and in my low back? You're feeling it in those places because that's where the end of that muscle is. Take a couple deep breaths and really soften across the lower abdominals. Try to feel the bladder and the intestines relaxing so that everything really softens and allows a deepening of the pose. And it's really nice to do yin style stretches like this as well as more yang style stretches because the yang is going to help build muscle, retrain the brain muscle connections, the neural pathways, while the yin aspect is going to allow those pieces of the body, so not necessarily the muscles, but the ligaments and tendons that hold the muscles to the bones that don't get a lot of opportunity to stretch because they need a long held, very soft stretch that allows them to start to soften and stretch. And you're going to press into your heel and bend your knee and then bring that foot back. Again, just pausing for a moment in bridge, gently turning the toes in, encouraging that internal rotation. And then we'll extend the left leg down. And again, if you get that rolling of the foot outwards, you might need to set the foot just slightly out to the side of the hip, and that will allow you to turn the foot in and encourage internal rotation. And then once again, you want to soften into this as much as possible. So really feeling the low belly, the low back relax, all of those internal organs relaxing. You might notice some digestive noises as the belly kind of rearranges. As we're stretching through the low belly, we're also stretching through our small and large intestine. We're creating a little bit more space through the belly right now for digestion to occur. And depending on how tight our abdomen is, you might be feeling this all the way up and under your rib cage. So you might actually be getting a bit of a stretch right through the actual stomach.
You're gonna press into your knee or into your heel, bend your knee, and bring that foot back. You're gonna just turn the toes out and then pull the heels out as well. So just one toe heel and then drop the knees in towards each other. They may or may not touch. It's not important. We're just trying to further encourage that internal rotation. Now you're going to bring the knees back up, heel toe the feet back in. Walk your feet back towards your hips as close as they'll go. Now we're going to do a little bit of a yawn practice here. So we just opened up the front of the thighs, and now we're going to support that openness by strengthening the back side of the thighs. So butt and back thighs, hamstring. So you're going to push into your heels, slowly lift up off of the block, pull the block out, holding here. Get ready for it. It's going to be super fun. You're going to walk the heels out. So on your heels, keep the toes up. Walk yourself out as far as you can go, but keep the booty in the air. Okay. Hold once you get out there. Told you this will be fun. Walk it back in. Keep the hips moving up. All right. And again, we walk it out. And we hold once we're out there. And then walk it back in. Push it up even higher. One more time. Let those toes walk it out. Hold out there. Hips up. And walk it back. Press into the four corners of your feet. Lift the hips up a little bit higher. And then slowly roll yourself down. Heel toe the feet out once, and then drop the knees in. And then bring the knees into the chest. Give yourself a little hug. Maybe a rock side to side. We're going to come into a pigeon variation. So the left leg is going to come, or left foot's going to come to the floor, right ankle on the left knee, and then pull the left leg towards you. So you can grab either the back of the thigh or the front of the knee. The thing you want to be sure of is that the head drops back down to the floor. So if you're all the way up here, but you got the front of your knee, you definitely want to take the back of the thigh so that you can drop down. From here, you're gonna just release your hands, slide your right knee across so that the right knee is in front of the left. So we're stacking everything, and then you're gonna pull down on the knees towards the chest. The main part of this pose is knees to the chest. However, you feel like you need a deeper stretch, you keep pulling the knees to the chest, and then you add pulling the feet out. So again, we don't want to pull the feet out and let the knees go away. We want to pull the feet out and maintain the knees coming to the chest. This should feel amazing after those glute walks that we just did. Unwinding the legs, right foot's going to come down onto the mat. Left ankle crosses at the right knee, headed back into that pigeon variation. Pull the knee up towards you, grab either the back of the thigh or the front of the knee. And again, we're looking to maintain the head and shoulders down on the mat. So if you need to back off and take the thigh, go right ahead. You're going to gently release the legs. Cross that left knee over. So now they stack one in front of the other. Grab hold of the knees and pull down towards the chest. Now this side may or may not be easier. So if you adjust it on the other side, you may adjust on this side or you might not. And if you didn't on the other side, same thing. So again, we're working the knees down to the chest. And then if you want to go deeper, you grab hold of the ankles and you pull out while maintaining the knees moving into your chest. Oh. Deep breath. Unwind those legs, hug the knees back into your chest. Let the knees open, the feet come together, grab hold of the feet in a reclined butterfly position. So if interlacing the fingers is not available to you, you can grab onto the ankles. You also always have the option of grabbing the strap and looping that around your feet. And then taking hold of the outer edges of the feet or ankles, open the feet up towards the ceiling, pulling the knees down towards the mat into happy baby, and then lengthen your low back down towards the mat. Releasing the feet, grab hold of the back of the knees, and roll yourself all the way up to seated. Let's take a quick open butterfly here just to stretch out that low back a little bit more. So balls of the feet together, not a traditional butterfly where you pull the feet in really tight, much more open. And then you're going to drop the head down towards the feet. Really give the hips a little wiggle here so that you can sink a little deeper down through those outer thighs. Rolling up, lengthen the legs out, and then drop the heart and the head down. So a really passive forward fold, mostly stretching through the low back and spine. So tuck the chin towards your chest. Think about looking for your belly button. And rolling up.
going to build a little bit of heat in the body through movement. So you're going to come sideways on your mat. Now, you may or may not need some support in this pose. Good way to know if you need support is if you take your feet about as far apart as one leg is long and your hands come to the floor easily, you're good. You don't need any support. If it's a struggle to get the hands to the floor, you're going to want to come up onto blocks or a chair stool situation. Now, another reason that you might need a chair or stool here is if you've got anything going on with your knees or hips. So if you've got any injuries going with the knees or hips, even if your hands easily come to the floor, I want you to grab yourself a little bit of support here because we definitely want to protect the knees and hips, and we don't need you blowing out a knee or hip in the middle of a yoga class. That kind of negates the purpose, doesn't it? So I'm going to show you on with the support. We're going to be moving side to side. So we're going to be strengthening those inner thighs. We just did work it on opening up the outer hips. So now we're going to strengthen through the inner hips. How this looks, most modified version, you just bend one knee and you want to make sure that knee goes straight forward. Okay. So it's not dropping in, going straight forward. And I'm just coming down essentially into like a half sumo squat. And then I go to the other side. So if my hands are up on something, so just go back and forth here. You can work with your breath however feels appropriate. If my hands are on something and I'm supporting myself, there's really no weight in the hands, okay? I could easily pick them up. They're just there in case I need to take my weight out of my feet. What I really want to be working on is pulling myself across. Okay, so obviously you need to push first, but then as this other leg starts to bend, I want you to think I pull myself across. So we're really trying to drag the body across by the leg that's bending. Okay, keep going. I'm just going to move the prop. So if the hands are on the floor, the same thing is happening. But again, I'm not really using much weight in my hands. I'm trying to keep this in my legs and I'm pulling myself across. Really cool thing about this is it's 2 for 1. As I'm strengthening my inner thighs, I'm also stretching the opposite leg. Now, the more advanced version of this would be as you come across, you externally rotate that lengthened leg and your hips come down. Okay, now you can do this with support if you like, or you can do it without any support, just kind of coming across. So do one more, each direction. And then we'll come back center, turn the toes out, and bend the knees. Dropping the hips down. So I'm trying to send the butt down and the chest up and the knees out. Lift the hips and then roll the spine up. I want to do a super easy quad stretch that you've probably been doing since you were a kid, but you've probably also been doing it wrong since you were a kid. So I've been working with this stretch every morning, first thing when I get out of bed, and really trying to dial in the subtleness to deepen the pose. So weight comes into the left foot. If you need support, bring yourself to a wall or something that you can hang on to. Weight comes into the left leg. Right foot comes into the right hand. So a lot of times you'll see people stretching like this. So they're leaning over the standing leg. The lifted leg is out to the side. I'm not getting much of a stretch at all here. There's a little bit just from pulling my heel towards my butt, but I'm not doing the pose any justice, the stretch any justice at all. So you want to stand up on top of your standing leg, drop that right knee down, squeezing the knees in towards each other. And remember that internal rotation we worked on in the beginning of class in bridge pose? We want to invite that same thing here. So you might even gently pull that foot out to the side. But you want to think that inner knee point is looking in, trying to kiss the inner knee point of the left knee. Okay? So that's the first thing. We stand up on top of the standing leg. We internally rotate. Now, you might also notice, especially as you internally rotate, your butt goes back and we get a little sway back going on in here. So I want you to really lift through the front body and press your tailbone down. And as you push your tailbone down, you're going to notice, oh, that changes everything. You might also notice that that knee comes forward. That means you're tight, and that's what we want to avoid. So I'm pushing my knee back and I'm pushing my hips down. So there's a pushing war happening here. And that should intensify the stretch quite a bit. So it's a very active stretch for the whole body. Your core should be working hard here. Your standing leg should be working hard here. This should not feel like a nice, like, oh yeah, yin pose. We are really super active in this pose, internally rotating, pushing back, lengthening down, lifting up. Lots going on in this pose. And then if you really want to get crazy, you can add a little external rotation by not so much grabbing the inside of the foot because that makes it really hard on the toes, but you can grab, see, as my foot cramps, you can bring the hand onto the top of the foot with the toes pointing down. That's going to give you a little more external rotation through the shoulder, and you're still going to have good control of the foot, the knee, and be able to bend the elbow more to deepen that stretch. And then just gently release. Wiggle that leg out. Because we just did a lot of stretching through the low back and pelvis, I like to do a little hula. That should feel really lovely. Some body rolls maybe. Good. And then we'll switch sides. Shifting our weight into the right foot. I'm going to catch the left foot. And again, notice how you're probably standing far more over that right leg than you need to be, and the left knee swinging out to the side. I want you to bring the knee down, bring the shoulders on top of the hips, on top of the foot. Now start to find that internal rotation. Maybe the foot comes out ever so slightly. But again, if you're taking the foot out, you want to make sure it's not coming from the knee, that the rotation actually happens in the upper thigh, which invites the foot out to the side slightly. So my inner kneecap point is trying to kiss the right inner kneecap point. And as that internal rotation happens, we might start to lose it through the low back and belly. So again, we have to lengthen the hips down. Notice that that knee wants to come forward, push it back. Keep internally rotating, kissing the knees together, lengthening the low back, butt down, pushing the knee back. Nice, strong upper body, breathing deep.
And then if you want to deepen the pose a bit, taking the fingers down the toes, down the foot, and that gets a little more external rotation up in the chest and allows a little bit more ability to pull on that foot. Again, press the knee back, lengthen the butt down, lift the front body up. And tune in for a moment. Notice if this side is easier or more challenging than the other. Gently release that foot. Give it a little hula, a little wiggle action happening. Maybe some body rolls. And then let's move down onto the mat into downward facing dog.
Grab your therapy balls before you do that. Just moving into down dog for a moment, taking a few deep breaths. Moving through your down dog, stretching everything out. And trying to create a little bit of space between your rib cage and your pelvis. So really stretching through that waistline. Roll forward into plank, step the right foot between the two hands, bring the left knee down, release the foot, and then roll up. Get your weight on top of the left leg. Really press that thigh bone and hip forward, and only come as far forward as you can without the pelvis shifting at all. So the second you start to bend through your low back, you want to stop. Okay? And we're working that internal rotation again. So I want you to think of this outer pant seam as rotating almost 45 degrees forward. From there, left arm comes up. And we're just going to tip to the right. Just a little bit. Keep that outer hip seam rotating forwards. And then if you want to go a little deeper, turn your face to look over your right shoulder and look back for those left toes. Coming back up in the center. Left hand comes down onto the mat. Tuck the left toes, right foot back. Down dog. If you want to throw a vinyasa in there, go for it. Roll forward. Left foot comes forward, right knee down, release the toes. Bring the weight back so you're stacked on top of the right knee. Hug the hips and under. Think about that right thigh bone sending you forward, and only come forward as far as you can go before the pelvis, low back start to adjust. So that may not be very far. Keep lifting through the front body. From there, the right arm is going to come up. And then you're just going to tip a little bit to the left. Keep lifting through the front body. If you want to go deeper, you're going to turn the head to the left, looking over the left shoulder for those right toes. Coming back center, right hand down, right toes lift, knee back, foot back, vinyasa or down dog. And then walk your hands back to your feet. Hang out for a moment in a forward fold. Then the knees roll up through your spine. Grab your therapy balls. We're only going to use one at a time, but I like to use both of them so that they wear out evenly. You're going to take one of them, put it on the floor, put your right foot on it, and just from the front of the foot, so right at the ball of the foot, back to where the heel starts, just rolling forward, and then reset yourself back. So leaning into that ball, right down the center of the foot. And then you want to just move it slightly outward towards the little toe. And we're going to stripe down the outer edge of the arch. Okay, and then move it right behind the big toe. And we go down the innermost aspect of the arch. Good. And then I like to try to crack my toes, so just tucking the toes into the arch of the left foot and pressing my ankle away. And then we take the other ball and roll right down the center to start. And move it towards the outer edge of the arch. And then the innermost.
And give the foot a little crack. Okay. And we'll head into Shavasana. So getting yourself nestled down onto your back, being comfortable, making sure you're warm enough. As you get settled, take a couple deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. Deepening your breath, feeling your fingers and toes, arms and legs. Take a long stretch. Bending the knees, feet to the floor. Go ahead and roll over onto one side. And press yourself up to seated.
Closing your eyes. Coming back into the breath, sensing into your body. What does the physical body feel like right now? How has it changed since we started? How does the emotional body feel now? How does it feel different than when we started? And how does the mental body feel now? And how is it different from when we started? And being grateful for whatever shift has occurred. Bring your hands together at your heart center. Thanking yourself for being on your mat today. And thank you for being here with me. Namaste.